Good morning. Magandang umaga po. Do you really need $1 million for you to retire? From the time you are born, all the time they always say, oh, you will need $1 million to retire. They also have rule of thumb like just make a withdrawal of 4% of your savings every year and you will survive. And I think 4% that is based on a 25% life cycle. These are rule of thumb which I do not believe with. You have to do your own budgeting. You have to do your own planning. There are too many variables to make this thing incorrect. The question is, do you need to have $1 million? My answer is categorically no. But that will depend on certain factors, things that you are going to do. That's what we're going to talk about. Stay with me. Hang loose. We start based on the assumption that you will fully retire, meaning you're not going to work. After all, that's what retirement is all about. You may do some investment because it should be something that will not require much of your time. Again, that's because you want to retire. You want to rest and enjoy life. That is the basic assumption. I realize that for some people, they'll need to continue working until they die. Okay? That's, sorry to say, but that's a fact of life for some people. But some people who did some savings, did some planning early on, and different people did different plans. Some decided, okay, I'm going to save so much money so I can continue with life as lavishly as I did. Very few people do, unless you're lucky to be a millionaire. And for most people, it will be a little bit of income here and a little bit of enjoyment here. Downsize, go to another place maybe where cost of living is cheaper. They try to manage to make everything fit. But let me show you the graph first to be sure this is fully understood. First, you have monthly income or Social Security and pension benefits. A lot of people just rely on Social Security. Other people have pension, IRA, 401k. Lucky for you. Okay, but for some people, they rely simply on Social Security, and guess what? In the United States, you will not survive unless you live very, 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 very poorly based on Social Security. Maybe with some exception for some people who are very frugal, and even during their lifetime, they have been living in a frugal way. That means their cost of living is really low. But for many people, they will not survive based on Social Security alone. So what happens? Your monthly expense usually exceeds your monthly income. Okay? So what do? You look for additional income. You look for additional income by looking for part-time job, something that will not hopefully occupy too much of your day so that you can enjoy retirement. Or maybe they have enough savings, and from that savings they can earn interest, dividend, rental income, or things like that. So what do they do with the excess? They have a dilemma of where to invest the savings. That is going to be a different topic. I will not talk about that in this particular video. We're going to talk about budgeting and finding out exactly where you are, and very important, monitoring it and making sure every year, at a minimum, every year you are on target. If you're not, you have to make adjustments. Okay, let's look at somebody with accumulated savings. Hopefully that will be for most people, will have some form of savings, one form or another anyway. And that savings must include reserve for funeral and medical insurance. Then they make a withdrawal. You can see the withdrawal is smaller than the investment yield or other source of income. That yield or other source of income should be at least equal to or greater than your withdrawal. Otherwise, you will be depleting. So you'll see it's smaller again, smaller again, smaller again, smaller again. After 5 years, you will see that your investment yield and other source of income exceeds your monthly expenses for which you are withdrawing from your savings. And your savings will continue to accumulate, or at least stay there, unless some emergency happens, in which case you will really dip into it. For example, you got sick, you got hospitalized, well, you have no choice but to use some of your savings, and therefore your savings could be depleted. But in a normal circumstance, or I should say not normal, but in a situation where you are not getting hospitalized, there is no emergency need for the cash, your cash reserve should be going up a little bit, because again, your income and investment yield is greater than your monthly expense. Or when I say investment yield and other source, I'm talking about, let's say, your Social Security. If you're able to fit your expenses within your Social Security allowance, then you're good. Your savings is not going to be touched. Now, the model I'm going to show you, by the way, I presented this model before, but this is an improvement over the previous model. And this model will be provided to you for free using the link down below. Please use the link down below. Otherwise, if you send me your email address and then asking me to send you that, there could be some delay. I don't know. It depends on my schedule. But the link down below will automatically send you the information that you need. The purpose of the model I'm going to show you, the initial one, the first one I developed earlier and you requested for, assuming you did, is only designed for the withdrawals to fit the savings, okay, for the amount of years you have left. That means there is no excess. That means your withdrawal is always greater than your investment yield or Social Security collection, such that after so many years, let's say you plan to live until age 95, it will be gone. Your savings will be gone, completely gone. This new model I'm going to present to you today is going to show, well, what if I want to have some cushion for emergencies, and if I die and I still have that money for the inheritance for my children. A lot of people want to do that. Most people will want to do that, if anything, at least to have an emergency fund. So now let's take a look at the model. I will present to you initially what I presented before. I will repeat it for the benefit of those who did not see it before. At least you will have a complete picture here. And then towards the end, I will show you the additional feature that I plugged in so that it will help you better plan your retirement. The only input that you need to put in here is nine pieces of information. What I would suggest to you is, on a piece of paper, jot down today, based on today's cost, how much you think you will need to survive. You start by looking at what you're spending on now. Let's say I spend money for groceries, medicine, rent, or housing. Could be interest or monthly payment on your mortgage, etc., etc. In detail. Then next column, take a look at what you're spending now and say, okay, again, this is not 20 years from now, but tomorrow I retire. How much do I need? Which expenses goes away? Which one does not? And how much will I need? That's the bottom line information you're looking for. So you say, okay, medical, oh boy, as I get older, my medical should go up. Oh, I have no more insurance. That should be tacked on, because right now my medical insurance is paid for by the company, or at least subsidized by the company. Now I'm going to pay for that. How much is that? Well, you have to know that. So you have to write that in. Gas, well, I'm no longer working, but I will still be once in a while traveling for pleasure. So that will come down a little bit. Taxes, I have no other income. If your only income is Social Security, chances are you don't even have to file a tax return. If you had other income from pensions and such, then you may wind up with some form of income. unless your pension is tax-free. We're not going to talk about that. That's a different topic altogether. You have to look at your pension plan. And you will come down to a bottom line number. You say, okay, this is how much I'm spending now. And I would imagine at retirement, that will shrink to a smaller amount. One of the major things you will need to think about is the home you're staying in. Do you still need that house? You can replace that house with a rental by renting. Now, I'm not saying that you do this, but you will have to look at the economics. If your house is already fully paid for, that means you're not paying for anything, but there is maintenance required, utilities. For example, a bigger house requires more money to heat compared to a little apartment. So should you downsize and be more frugal that way and spend the money on pleasure stuff rather than needed stuff? That is something you will need to think about, and you will need some figuring out. But I cannot help you with that. You will have to do that yourself. Once you're all done with this, now let's go to the form. First, where am I going to put my money? If you put it in the bank, right now it's almost zero, like 0.02%, almost zero. Let's say that you are an average or better sort of investor and you can make 6% on your money. What's your current age? Let's assume that you are 30 years old. Good for you. You're planning well ahead of time. Well, some people even plan earlier. Retirement age. So that is an unknown, but you can run what-if analysis here. Okay? So let's say that you want to retire at age 65. And I don't think you want to retire any later than 65 unless you have that option, because most companies will retire you when it's time for you to retire. But some profession, like lawyers, they can retire until 80 or 90, good for them. Real estate agents, which I used to be one, but I decided to retire and rest because I got tired of it. Assume age at time of death. Now this is difficult. You will have to look at your genes. My dad, for example, passed away at 77. I'm 72, so does it mean I only have 5 years to go? Better medicine today, maybe I can live another 10 years as opposed to 5 years, maybe until 82 or whatnot. But for some people, they may want to say, no, I think I'm going to survive until I'm 95. That is to be conservative, because if you plan your death later than what will actually happen, you may have excess money. But if you plan your death at 85 and you live until 92, you're bankrupt. Okay? So, accumulated savings to date, well, at age 30, maybe you already have, let's say, $3,000. You put that in. So that's a known number, so you will have no problem there. Now, cost of living at retirement age, that is the one we just talked about in detail. Okay, so let's say that you came up with the number 1,800, whether you are staying in your house, or maybe that's staying in your house because accumulated savings to date is only $3,000. But if you already have a house, maybe you have an equity, and that's why over here it says cash savings, home equity, 401k, IRA investment. So hopefully that will include IRA investment. If not, maybe it's going to be a greater amount. Estimated annual inflation rate. Now, this is an assumption that is so dangerous, just like the investment return. These two, for the past so many years, our inflation rate has been less than 1%. Then I think last year it was a little bit higher than 1%. And then now I just heard 1 month, it's 4%. Okay? And then I just heard the other day, it's 9% annual inflation. Boy, I hope that's not going to be true. But if that's going to be true, good for Social Security recipients, because the receipt, the Social Security benefit they will receive is going to be inflation adjusted. Good for them, okay? But keep in mind, expenses will go up as well. So this is something this is the reason why Every year you should be reviewing this, minimum. Maybe every 6 months, or every time, for example, what I heard 9%. If I'm the one doing the budgeting now, I'll say, boy, 9%. I better check mine and look at it again. What if it continues to be, let's just say 9% is too high. Let's say, what if it's going to be 7%? Then I will look at the numbers and say, gee, I better increase my contribution. Okay, the amount of money that I'm saving for my retirement. Otherwise, I'm going to run short. But we'll go through some what-if analysis for sensitivity, depending on the variables you're changing. So, estimated annual inflation rate, let's assume that it's 1.5% like in the past. Let's assume that 4%, 9%, that's just abnormal stuff that hopefully it will come back down. Hopefully. Now, you also will have to estimate how much benefit you will get from Social Security. Also your pension. Talk to your actuarial, talk to your trustee, the one that administers or manages your 401k portfolio, okay? And look at how much you're gonna get. Do you have a defined benefit plan or a defined contribution plan? It depends. Social Security, you can call Social Security, or there's a website where you can get how much Social Security you will get at a certain age. 62, 67, 65, 70, okay? Plug those in. And let's say that your Social Security, according to them, is 1,800. Now, you will notice that the 1,800 here, cost of living, will be inflation adjusted by 1.5%. So by the time you retire from 30 to 65, by the time you're 65, that 1,008 is going to cost you 3,031 a month. But the amount of Social Security you will receive is already inflation adjusted until that year that you are going to collect. Let's say age 62 or 65. In this case, age 65. When the number they will give you is that number. Keep in mind, though, that if you quit sooner than actually retiring at 65, that could change. That would come down. Because the number they will give you is based on the assumption that you will continue to work at the same level you are making now. Okay? Now, this is where everything stops from my previous presentation. According to this, you will need to save 127 a month. And how is that calculated? This savings you now have of 3,000, okay, assuming the 6% return on investment is going to become $24,000. All right? That's going to become $24,000. Then, the amount of money you will need to supplement your Social Security is $206,000. Or $181,000, because the amount of money you will need to save, since you have 35 or 30 years from 65 to 95 to support yourself, is going to be 206,000. The difference is 181. This is how much money you need to have saved by the time you reach the age of 65, or $127 per month. Now, let's look at the bottom line here. You said your age is 30. You'll retire at 65. That is 35 years. And you will live until 95. That is 30 years. So you will have 35 years to save and 30 years to spend. Obviously, if you will die sooner, okay, that means you will have less time on earth for you to support yourself. Okay, so all this will affect the numbers. Okay, but you don't have to worry about the math. It's being done for you on this model. So take a look at this. Your current savings of 3,000 will be worth 24,371. Okay, your current savings I'm sorry, your monthly savings of $127 per month will accumulate to $181,976. Okay, at age 65, that's a total of $206,000, which is what you need according to this model up there. And you will have available for you a monthly withdrawal of $1,231 for you until age 65, for you to survive until age 65. You add that to your monthly pension benefit of $1,008, $3,031, the amount of savings you have, the $206,000 saving you have, this $206,000 savings you have, and the $1,800, assuming 6% rate of return, okay, that's critical. You will survive until age 95. Now, what is the change in this model? Some people say, gee, but I want to have $1 million left for my heirs, for my children or grandchildren when I die. They don't want to be just totally broke. Also, they say, oh, gee, maybe I need some reserve. Some reserve. And people say, I need to have 1 million. Well, you don't need 1 million. So, if you're going to die at age 95, according to this, you will need, let's take a look at that, 200,000 desired reserve for medical, hospitalization expense, inheritance, etc. You will need to save $267 a month in total, or additional $140 for the so-called medical reserve. Okay, so that's $267 a month. This additional $140 will accumulate to a total value of $200, which is what you inputted, $200,000. But you just leave it there and make sure you're making the return that you said you're going to make, and that will be worth about $1.2 million by the time you die at age 95. Now, what if you died sooner? You die at age 85? Well, it will be less. It will be less. Okay, for example, let's throw this number in. Let's say that you will die at 85 instead of 95. Okay, that money is going to be only worth $662,000, but your contribution is $243, $139, almost the same as the other one, but it will not survive until, it will not equal the 1 million that you want. It will be less. The other thing too that's nice about this is, by the time you retire, you will have $200,000 in your savings account that you can dip into. This is in addition to the $172,000. So the total money you have is $372,000 by the time you retire. By the time you retire, you have $372,000. This money here, the $172,000, will be the reserve fund available for you to supplement your $1,800 with $1,231 withdrawal until age 95. Let's go back to the 95 here. Okay, until age 95. This here will not change because this will still accumulate to 200, but the contribution is almost the same, $140, $139 a month. But what will happen is you will have less work. Now, that's a little complicated, but try to digest this. Get the form down below. Put your actual numbers, the way you see yourself, the way you see your numbers, the way you see things progressing, and let me show you what's going to happen. Right now, it shows you should be saving $267 a month. A month. Okay? That's assuming you can earn 6%. Some of you will earn more than that. Some of you will earn less. Let's just see what happens. What if I only achieve 4%? You achieve 4%, you have to be setting aside $487. That's a lot less, a lot less. And that's why that, and some of you may just keep the money in a savings account with zero. Whew. If this zero return, let's say it's 0.02%, like it is now, you should be saving 867. That is the reason why people are thinking, gee, I cannot have 1 million. But it's because they're not factoring in the amount of money they can make as they save, as they save, the compounded value of money. You invest something today, in 1 month, you will gain interest or dividend. Then the sum of those will then again earn money. So it's a greater amount, greater amount, greater amount, greater amount. And that is the reason for this. This will project for you what you need to be saving to achieve a certain milestone. But it's up for you to keep on updating this thing and watching out for fluctuation. What if it is, look at this, what if this is now 4%? You should be saving $2,680 a month. Okay, so you're just assuming 1.5%. Okay, 1.5%. But that could change. President Biden could change the trajectory of our economy. We don't know what's going to happen. So watch out for this 6%. 6% is a good return today. There used to be 10%. 10 to 12% is a better target to achieve. Now 6% is fairly good. And some will even guarantee you, for example, I think it's Wells Fargo, who guarantees me 4% return. If the stock market drops, I get a minimum of 4%. If the stock market goes up, it's greater than 4%. So I get the upside, but none of the downside. But the catch to that is you will not get as much upside as if you do your own investing or if you invest in other funds or plans. So these are things you need to consider and you need to think about. So I'm just giving you the tool for you to use because there's a lot of mathematics involved here, the computation of present value and future value and payments and computation of the number of years and such. Simple spreadsheet that has heavy-duty calculation involved and will give you the tool for you to look at your retirement plan. So, for people who feel that this is too high, don't despair. What you can do is contribute as much as you can, but at least you know what the target is. It's better to do that than not. And for those people with excess cash, you can say, okay, I will just assume a lower thing and I'm going to invest a little bit more. This will just give you the guideline as to where you are in your planning process. If you're young, good for you, you're planning earlier in your life for retirement. You have a lot of time for you to plan and make adjustments. If you're an elderly, it's not too late. It's better to have a plan than no plan. Take a look at what the potential things that could happen in the future. Try to do catch up. Accelerate the savings as much as you can. See, when you were younger, the amount of money you can contribute is less. As you get older, children are already gone. You can contribute more to your retirement plan. The important thing here is for you to review this every year, at a minimum every year, and have like a telescope of where you think you're going to be. Better, much better than not looking at it and then being surprised about, I cannot retire. How am I going to do this? How am I going to survive? It's tough. I wasn't planning on retiring because as a real estate agent, I could work until I'm so old. But then I say to myself, why will I enslave myself? I enjoy real estate very much so. But I said, I want to enjoy my life. So I went to the Philippines and, look at this, Philippines is a great place, but I'm not going to retire there 100% of the time. So I'll just spend time to visit the island. But pandemic came. No matter how you plan, there are things that you don't plan for. Pandemic is unplanned for, so now I'm waiting, and let's see when the country opens up again. Then it'll be time for us to move on. Now, at some point, depending on how long this takes, I may change my plans. But that's how planning should be. It should be flexible. You should have enough resources to pull on if you want to change your plans. But one thing I can guarantee you about planning is you'll never make a mistake if you plan. You may not be able to achieve everything in the plan, all the components, like the pandemic. I never planned for it, but who did? And at least you have some resources to pull here and there to see how you can survive. Okay? So I hope you learned something from this video, and please do share it with others. And don't forget to request a copy of the model. That will save you a lot of time. And I'll appreciate it if you click like. And please give me comments regarding this presentation. Thank you so much. Make it a great day, and God bless.